Good evening. Welcome to the Housing Commission September 4th regular meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with our housing commissioner members, city staff, and members of the public participating in the Oak Conference Room and via Zoom. I will call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. 6:32 p.m. Thank you. Reading the clock. Appreciate that. Reading. And I would like to introduce staff and housing commission members present. We have housing manager Tim Wong and management analyst Adam Patterson here with us this evening. On the commissioner front, looks like we have Commissioner Leach, Commissioner Onap participating via Zoom. Commissioner Bailey, hello, good evening. Myself, Chair Merriman. And will we introduce the new commissioner later?
Why don't we do it now?
Okay, so from here, so Adrian
Trump.
very nice to meet you. Hope to learn more about you later on in the meeting. Give you a chance to introduce yourself. Tim, would you please provide instructions to the Housing Commission and members of the public on how we'll proceed?
Okay, thank you, Chair Merriman and members of the Housing Commission. Welcome everyone to the September 4th regular meeting. And thanks for attending. Staff will engage cameras and phones to make presentations, and respond to members of the Housing Commission. For members of the public who are in attendance and wish to provide public comment on an item of tonight's agenda, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, for virtual participants, please engage the raise hand feature on the bottom of your screen. For those who are calling from a landline or cell phone, please press *9. For those in person, please complete a speaker card, and if you could bring that card to me. That concludes the instructions, and I will return the meeting to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to public comment. Under public comment, the public may address the Housing Commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the Housing Commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. You are not required to provide your name or city of residence, but it is certainly helpful. The Housing Commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the Housing Commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Tim, do we have any public comment?
No.
Thank you. Item D, regular business. Under regular business, the Housing Commission receives informational presentations in addition to considering policy matters and administrative action. First, we'll have item D1 to approve the Housing Commission meeting minutes from our August meeting. This is now open for public comment. Do we have comments on the agenda for the meeting minutes? Okay. So looking for a motion to approve.
Move to approve the Housing Commission meetings minutes from August 7th.
Thank you.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Leach, seconded by Commissioner Beal, to approve the Housing Commission meeting minutes for August 7th. Roll call vote. Commissioner Beal.
Aye.
Vice Chair Campos absent. Commissioner Leach.
Aye.
Chair Merriman.
Aye.
Commissioner Onap.
Aye.
Commissioner Portillo absent. Commissioner Tremont.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. This is now open. Pardon me.
D2.
We're at T2, pardon me, getting adjusted here. Thank you. Item B2 is to review and recommend to the city council approval of the 2024-25 Housing Commission Work Plan, continued from our August meeting. I'll ask Housing Manager Tim Wong to introduce the item, please.
Yes, so good evening. Why don't we go ahead and put it up? This item is about consideration for the Housing Commission's annual work plan. The work plan is required by the council, and it's required by the council to be approved by the council by the end of September. So this annual work plan will be going to council on September 24th. A number of commission annual work plans will be reviewed together by the council. So as you can see, you have three work goals. I should say the Housing Commission has three work goals. Is community engagement, in which the Housing Commission would do 2 outreach events on an annual basis to participate in anti-displacement efforts, and especially focus on naturally affordable housing, and also to create a collection of displacement experiences to personalize the impact of displacement. And then lastly, to focus on the development of affordable housing on public lands. Last Tuesday, I believe, or the Tuesday prior. Anyways, my dates are off, but the city council had a study session on development of affordable housing on downtown parking lots. So it was to present a feasibility study. And from that meeting, of the 8 parking lots downtown, staff was or recommended that development look at development opportunities on lots 1, 2, and 3, and to issue a request for qualifications or an RFQ. And so staff is in a few other directions from the council. Those were the 2 main takeaways. Staff will be following council direction and be coming back to them. That is where we are with the development, the city is with the development. And just to highlight, if in the staff report, in the previous meeting, at the August 7th meeting, the commission had asked for metrics for each of these work plans. I think the community, so staff believes, I think staff believes there's good metrics for the first one, community engagement, 2 per year. And just on a side note, this might be killing 2 birds with 1 stone, but for anti-displacement, city staff is putting together its work plan for anti-displacement plan. We're looking at having a few community meetings, maybe a community survey to help prioritize public comments that have been received about anti-displacement from the housing element and the environmental justice element preparation. And so we're taking those comments and hopefully take them back to the community so they can prioritize each of all these comments that you want the city to pursue. And the reason I bring up anti-displacement and community engagement is potential suggestion is on October 10th, the city is having an open house at the Bellhaven Community Center. And that is a potential opportunity for the Housing Commission to chair a table to provide resources, information about the city's housing programs, I should say, just a general resource. And by October 10th, city staff should have a better idea of the next few dates for the anti-displacement effort. So with that, just as a suggestion, as a potential metric to incorporate. And then, for the last one, recommendation about the development of affordable housing, especially on the parking lot, is maybe a little more detail, a little bit understanding that now the council has asked for an RFQ that and staff will report to the Housing Commission on the process of the RFQ or the development of the parking lots. And so that's an opportunity for the Housing Commission to review what staff has done to this, provide comment, and if there are any other additional details, staff, the Housing Commission would like to oversee such as, just talking about the targeted population, making sure that these levels really meet the needs of the Menlo Park community, whatever those may be, and this being the voice for the community about making sure that the community's needs in developing these parks. So that's brief presentation about the annual work plan. So just asking the Housing Commission to maybe refine some of these. And what we have on the right, this was submitted by Commissioner Leach, and these are some of her suggested revisions to the annual work plan for the Commission's review. Instead of sending it out to everyone, this is probably an easier way for the Commission to review. So
The main change, if I could point out, is, I added the bullet number 4. I had a note that we wanted to have our goals to be engaged with other commissions or committees, and I have just a very broad statement there. And then other than that, I changed, the community engagement. There was a request that we had more than 2. So I said at least 2. And then under anti-displacement, I referenced, what part of the housing element update I was referring to. That's really those are the changes mainly. The rest of it is pretty much the same. I did have a note to include metrics, and I didn't know what to do with that, so that's what you're talking about, like more.
yes, staff suggests or recommends, they don't have to be reach out to 50, but for example, community engagement, at least 2 to 4 events or in the current 4 it's 2 per year. I think that's a pretty good metric, attainable. But for anti-displacement, create a collection of displacement experiences. But maybe a little more detail, what does the Housing Commission want to do with that? Is that a goal that the Housing Commission wants to continue to pursue, to trying to understand the purpose of understanding, to put a face on displacement, but what is the Housing Commission's maybe a purpose to, or adding a little more action to this? So those are some of the
I think maybe even just collecting metrics on displacement or might be a valuable way to, just add some, reality to how frequent it is. Maybe that could be a goal.
In your experience, is there a metric that's easy to pick up?
No, that's the thing.
It's a tough part.
That's
I believe
the
it.
$64,000 question, not to date myself, but it really is trying to get accurate
Yeah.
rents and also what are the reasons? Everyone's back to the increasing rents, but it's all don't.
And I mean, could we even like collect how frequently that happens? That would probably be pretty difficult as well.
I think that's why we have a collection of displacement experiences was. I
So
think,
it's
our-
more like adding to the, I guess, the qualitative look to it rather than
Yeah.
quantitative.
Yeah, like this is what it looks like. And where are we gonna put those in? Just.
Sorry,
Should we do?
procedural.
Is there-
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So, if you feel that, you've sufficiently introduced the item and
Yeah.
the comments, then maybe we should, go ahead and open the public comment. Thank you.
Do we have any? We have one person that's up there. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Just a quick call for public comment and.
Okay.
We do have a public comment.
Okay.
Okay, so
Just give me 1 minute. I'm gonna pull up the clock, Karen, and you can go ahead.
Hi, good evening. This is Karen Grove, resident of Menlo Park and former housing commissioner. I just wanted to chime in and say I would hear commission more towards making concrete recommendations to city council for actions they can take to stem displacement. And you could, I think it's a great idea to collect stories of impact, but there are lots of community organizations and advocacy groups who have done that. And you can go back and look at city council meetings to hear stories of displacement from residents and former residents. So I don't think we need to do more of that. I think we need to listen to the stories we've already been told, and we need to take action. So that is what I would recommend. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Any further comments?
No.
Thank you, former housing commissioner Grove, for calling in there. Appreciate you always. So we are open for clarifying questions and discussion of the item. And maybe since you've been so proactive and putting forth your comments, if we want to kind of go back to where we were headed already, if that makes sense to see if we want to respond to this, or we started to discuss the pieces here, so I'm wondering if we want to just kind of let this guide us at the beginning of our conversation.
the one on the right that I worked on is not, the main difference is that I added, I changed the number of community engagement and I added the suggestion that we engage, that we start to try to partner with other commissions and committees. So it's not really that much different. I like the idea of giving more specific instructions on anti-displacement. I don't honestly know what those would be myself. Like you're saying, I think it's a big giant thing to recommend.
Well, so in terms of anti-displacement, I think it is incredibly difficult because people become displaced and they no longer live here and they're voiceless in a big way. And I think that's been responsible for tearing up the community fabric for a long time. And it hasn't gone away in the 15 years of housing conversation I've been following in the city. Folks want to see action here, and I think has proven so far to have a pretty limited ability to influence it. One of the ideas that I had when thinking about it was really this commission has also a limited scope in the process and any official capacity. We mostly review the BMR agreements and we make recommendations to the city council. There's other things that are really, when you boil down to it, let me know if I'm missing something. We're advisory. We do have this kind of procedural role on a couple things, including the BMR agreements and also some other things that are required to a certain extent, the housing element, and the housing element implementation report that comes through on an annual basis that the city has to provide to the state of California. The point there is really to look at, to put it into our real goal, to look at that BMR agreement and understand, like, is there something that we can work with there? Because the homes that are being produced are one really tactical way to try to get a displacement. So if there's more of a conversation about homes being produced in the city, being open to either through their preferences or through their marketing or through something, that there's more of an attempt to connect BMR homes being produced to people who have been displaced. That's one suggestion. I'm pushing myself to say, what do we really have through our scope, ability to explore, and not in a soft explore, but explore and really make a policy recommendation on. We heard two presentations last month, and I think either one of them could listen to these meetings and understand that it's a community priority and that it would probably strengthen community support for their actual projects if it was more explicitly incorporated into the approach of how to serve Menlo Park. I think generally serving people who live and work here are great. There is a definition though for displaced at this point, isn't that right? For our BMR for sale product.
No, not the guidelines, but there are some BMR agreements that have given preferences.
I mean, on the city's waiting list for sale BMR units, I think we could look at the definition for displaced, because I think it spans a certain number of years. And that we could look and see if that still feels like it's relevant, or it was a priority of this commission, maybe I want to say like 6 years ago, to look at that, and we worked on that definition. And I think we should do more. I think that there's, I would welcome some study from staff to see, where are there real levers we could push on the study for this commission. But if there's a way you can help guide us towards that, I would welcome that. Does that sound like a follow-up item that we could, it's a work plan, it's what we're going to be doing next year, but we need the collaboration and to a certain extent, there's prioritization that happens if we have limited housing staff.
But just understanding where that, whatever comes across your table, so to speak, influence or just have anti-displacement measures or some type of sentiment about that. And apply it to these things that come across, whether it be BMR guidelines or individual no for projects
Yeah.
or something along
And
those
if there isn't enough of that, like we need to task ourselves with creating more policy for that, or including that.
You were mentioning, Nevada, that, or Karen was mentioning that, community groups that have studied this. I mean, reach out to some of the housing advocacy groups and see if.
Yeah, I think the stories are important. I mean, I was the chair many years ago when we studied an anti-displacement benefit that would have provided, if folks were being displaced from their unit because an owner was selling, that there was going to, the proposal from the commission at that time was to compensate them for a certain number of months of their rent to kind of aid with the process of moving, which I think is a limited, concrete, anti-displacement style policy that ultimately did not get passed by council, but we did host, and I did, as chair, listen to 2 evenings worth of testimony from residents of Menlo Park that spanned maybe 6 hours. And we heard story after story after story, including a woman who had survived the Nazi concentration camps, but is going to be in her 90s displaced from home and feeling as though, this is just traumatic to her. So there's really, really quite a lot that's on record at a certain time for those videos. And I do hope that we can, just maybe get our hands on some of that, but not try to create something from a new, suite of stories there. I think that there's 5 or 6 different types of examples that happen over and over again. And so we could pull that together, those profiles. I mean, more than this person had this experience, it's like this profile. Somebody's been in their home renting for 20 years. The landlord has only done moderate, like tiny increases that whole time. New buyer comes in, is trying to get a big mortgage to buy it, then sees the potential to mark up these rents to market. So that's one pretty common scenario that ends up with people moving, with like new owners making assumptions about raising people's rents, or either, I think at a certain point, if you have a 10% rent increase year over year, you're effectively evicting somebody if you know they can't pay for it. So I mean, that's just one. There's several kind of profiles of how people end up no longer being able to stay in their homes even though they'd like to. I think the work on that would be pretty straightforward. And then we spend a lot of time with collecting news stories.
Well, that would fall under the same, create a collection of displacement experiences, and that we could change that to general profile.
Yeah, just a couple of even just putting a couple low hanging fruit examples and like is a way of defining our problem statement. Like what's the issue that we're trying to fix here? I think that would be helpful, provided that it's limited and focused on addressing it with our policy solutions. A response maybe from staff.
In terms of, you had mentioned, what are we working towards here? So is that as part of the anti-displacement plan? Yeah. As I mentioned, prioritization. And one of the things we're thinking about how to measure the priorities is, does it meet this goal? And right now, the goal is, I think, to keep people in the community, keep them in their house. And I don't know if that's the same goal. You had mentioned a goal. Is that the Housing Commission goal? I think it is. If that is, we can work on that together somehow.
Yeah, so I mean, you bring up a great point. So anti-displacement is 2 things. One is making sure it's not happening presently for reasons. And another one is people who have been displaced, like what are the policies that try to capture them into some operative definition that says they're still from Menlo Park, even if they were not able to stay here because landlords and they had to move across the bridge. And so there's a couple pieces to that.
Okay, so if we were to come up with anti-displacement ordinance, talk about tenant relocation or tenant preferences, that is something that the commission is interested in. Because if we have a tenant displaced preference in our BMR, which you mentioned, I don't know if we're going to go that way, but if we do, that's something we can bring to the Housing Commission for their.
So let's do the research on looking at our BMR for sale, not for rental. The for sale BMR list, I think, has some provisions around that. So
We do. I remember
it's
we wanted to strike a requirement and actually it was left in based on Housing Commission input.
So, I mean, thinking about how to apply that. And then again, just, we do need staff's expertise on understanding, now that you've heard the intent. Several commissioners here and trying to also represent a couple of folks that are commissioner folks that are able to be here today. And certainly echoing on a lot of, I think I've done 6 or 8 community outreach meetings in Bellhaven and over the same stuff. Residents there, it's that in the capacity of my day job. It's definitely something that it's prevalent in a fun way. So I think we need to study where we can make a difference.
Yeah, okay. I think for the housing commission's purposes for these goals, I think what we can do is kind of like, as mentioned in the staff, we will definitely be bringing back proposed anti-displacement or even updates as we go through it, as if the housing commission is open to staffing a table during the open house, we can provide the housing commission additional information about anti-displacement timeline, and then we can also bring back updates to the housing commission, understanding that the housing commission has certain things that it's interested in. The definition, staff can highlight that to get, just feedback from the housing commission. In addition, tenant relocation. That sounds like something that the housing commission is also interested in. And if we go the rent registry route, which is now a more popular thing to get those rent figures, we'll also present that to the housing commission. Whatever becomes of these community meetings that we plan to have.
So looking at the places where we operationalize the policy, right? So through the BMR agreement, through the NELCA itself. I never tell us applicant about how you will reach out to, in alignment with the city's desire to, there's ways that could be formal and scored for part of the regulatory agreement, et cetera. There's also ways that are a little bit more qualitative. There's a lot of places we could look at to try and live on this. And I hope that anybody watching will feel free to send an email to the commission with any suggestions they have. This is not an area of my own personal expertise, but is really important. I think, especially in the last 8 years or so, the 3 Ps, the protection, preservation, production kind of trio there. But looking at all of that, even in our city work here, it's important to kind of reach the full suite of housing solutions that we need.
Okay, just to understand from the housing commission, so I think sounds like community plan, goal 1 is okay. Reach at least 2, preferably 4. But just be aware that this is the housing commission's work plan, so it'll require, obviously, a time commitment from the housing commission to do these outreach events. But certainly October 10th can be one of these outreach efforts. And if the housing commission wants to, with farmers market, community meetings, that's fine too. So, okay. Just trying to get clarity to what to move forward. So it sounds like, just for clarity, does the Housing Commission want to go with language or with Commissioner Leach's language? And I guess that's questions for each one of these goals. What's the Housing Commission's preference? Understanding that probably needs to be some tweaks to either one.
Yeah.
I mean, my friendly amendment would be to review what is the under the existing scope of the Housing Commission's work and understand how, like, and operationalize our policies through these documents. So it's the NOFA, the VMR agreement, and to study like how we can have a more robust policy around this.
Okay.
City's policies, what we have done to date is pretty limited.
And would that be specific for any of them or specifically for anti-displacement?
And displacement.
So we'll try this. Yeah. You can just, do we want to just try typing it on the annual work plan? Doing a little wordsmithing here, but like, review current guidelines.
This is a new item.
No, this is for anti-displacement.
Yeah, but it's highlighting the areas of the Council Commission where there's a real procedural place that we can strengthen strengthen the efficacy of these policies by having it included in how we produce housing through NOFA, through the VMR agreement.
Okay. To emphasize understood, yeah. Under the Housing Commission's, whatever's under the Housing Commission's purview.
I don't know if we can do beyond that, and
Yeah,
it'd be great to do all this other stuff, but I mean, we're limited here. This is, we only got so much time. Would love to see something that maybe is not controversial, like a section of the NOFA where applicants describe, how they may reach out or incorporate the anti-displacement best practices into their lease-up strategy, for instance, and if you commit to it and then you have to do it. That's the way that's one of the ways that we can work our process. Would love to see it on the table to do things like a second preference for displaced people or have that be on the laundry list of items that are being included during a city developer applicant negotiation. There's 40 different things that they're going to consider. You're not going to do everything in every project. That's fine. We don't really even flag it to our partners that this is something that's important to us.
okay. Instead of improvements, I would just say that there can be emphasis on anti-displacement efforts. Instead of improvements.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is the work plan we'll need to study to see where those areas are. But these are maybe surgical or incremental ways to do it, but this tends to be where the Housing Commission can have.
Yeah, I don't think we need these. I have a pretty good, not a pretty good, I understand whether it be VMR agreements, ordinances, whatever comes across the Housing Commission's table. See where they can emphasize anti-displacement measures or at least efforts, whether it be outreach or something to. Okay.
So the only other thing I added there was, I had a note to reference program H2E of the housing element. I don't know if that's good to put that in there, but that was in my notes.
That's up to the housing committee. This, because of program H2E, the city is pursuing anti-displacement. If you want to make a specific reference to it,
I could strengthen this.
yeah, great, that's fine.
In the, there was a note in the, under community engagement that someone wanted to put more than two, so at least two, preferably 3 or 4. I don't honestly know how realistic that is for me. 2 is good.
I mean, if we have, I think if we say we.
So then we have,
Yeah, you say at least 2 preferably, but as long as you say at least.
so we can just say at least, have at least 2 information. That's under community engagement. The other thing was I had a note, the 4th one, I don't know. I mean, I have just very generic language there. There was a discussion at the Housing Commission meeting in August about partnering with other commissions or committees and reaching out to them. And I don't know that that's something we want to include, but I
I
have.
mean, I've certainly seen it happen, seen commissions discuss something, agree on an approach together and send an emissary to another commission to say this is something that we'd love you to consider as your.
Yeah,
Do we formally partner? with commission at all, or?
We did on the housing element.
Yeah.
There were joint commission meetings. So that's really the,
I think that's,
that's the architecture of the city staff.
yeah, that's, I would say the exception more than, yeah. When it comes to joint meetings with that.
I guess, can I ask, about just recommendations, because I haven't, I guess, seen like the formal recommendation process yet, that just goes straight to city council, we don't work with the planning commission on that.
No, all recommendations from the housing, whether it be BMR agreements, NOFAs, go straight, just like go straight, but go to
Go to.
the council. Yeah, it is not vetted by any other commissions.
And that
Sometimes
happens
the same item serially from commission to commission, but it doesn't usually mean like we don't approve it to go out. Like we don't gatekeep it to the next step. But I believe I have gone to the commission to talk about the housing element annual report.
Okay. Yes, the planning commission does.
We elected to do that as a commission to try to highlight that it's not just a report with numbers, it has some implications for the work that they're doing when they're approving homes. When they're looking at the project concept kind of more generally.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that. And I guess just for my knowledge, for when we are making like a recommendation, how frequently does that happen? I know it says our aim is to exceed the, the housing element numbers, but, is that just something that happens frequently, or we're just kind of essentially waiting for a request to be made and then we make the recommendation based on that?
Yeah, it's typically the latter when developments come through and they go through their entitlement process. One of the things they need to do is, if it is for residential projects, they need to have a BMR. In which the agreement will either say they provide units or they have to pay money. But procedurally, it must come through the housing commission. Same with NOFAs, notice of funding availability. Last meeting, you heard 2 presentations who have applications in. And so, although last meeting was purely informational, those applications will be reviewed by the housing commission.
So in a later
In the
meeting,
future.
we will do recommendations.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But it's just kind of when they're ready. Sometimes projects aren't ready. It just depends, but there's no consistent pipeline, if you
Yeah,
will.
it's just when they're ready.
Other than the annual report, which has to, because of state requirements, the housing commission will hear the housing element annual report. Or before, has to be in. By That's the only consistent agenda.
Okay. So yeah, there's, I guess, no like specific number we can put, so may have recommendations to make.
No,
Just.
yeah. Next meeting, just skipping ahead, you'll probably be hearing two BMR agreements.
Yeah.
Wow, it can go months or no meetings without any BMR. NOFA, a little more frequent maybe, but BMR.
Thanks.
Was that item number 4 is what that is?
Shall we discuss if there's anything more on number 3?
Yeah, well, for goal 3, it was that more, it would be staff recommends a little more direction, a little more detail. For example, how does the housing commission want to be involved in the development of downtown apartments? We will provide you updates, of course, and then receive feedback, but this will be a really lengthy process. It's not going to happen quickly, but how does the housing commission want to be involved in these, in the development lots?
Well, I would think for myself, not having any background in like development and construction, I would want to, make sure that there was a focus on low income and very low income residents. In addition to moderate income, but, because the low income is, I mean, what is it, 160,000 for a family? I mean, it's high.
The VLI is just.
What's that?
But it's still pretty hot, yeah, and it's for San Mateo. It's just-
Yeah, so that would be what I would think, just be the kind of be the buzzing mosquito in the ear of the city council. To keep remembering that.
So I'd like to answer this from a procedural point, but also make sure that the commission and staff are aware that I recommend this procedurally, but will not participate in this part due to my employer and potential conflict of interest. I do believe that the commission should have a role in reviewing a request for proposal. If there's an ability for the commission to make comments on it, that would be helpful.
To review the actual RFPs.
Yeah, to understand if some of the goals of this work plan have been sufficiently incorporated into how the selection will happen of whoever the city chooses to partner with. There's a couple areas in particular that I think could be rich and appropriate areas for the commission to look at. One of them is linking it to that housing element report card. If we have these goals for every level of our regional housing needs allocation or per category, so we have a very low income goal and a low income goal. We need to, that's a way of benchmarking how the city is doing. And also suggesting where there needs to be more focus on the overall housing strategy. That's one thing. I think last 2 years ago, there was legislation that changed the annual report card form itself. So now the city will have to report on not just very low income, but also extremely low income units produced. I think we'll see that there's not very many. But that's new, and I think, you know, hopefully I can be at the meeting next March to describe why it's important, because it's been a real passion of mine to look beyond that report card and really understand what it's capturing and what it has captured so far, so that the inclusion of that extremely low income category and whatever the number is for this year is kind of a data point that could influence what the public policy, what the targeting goals are for the city when it's looking at some version of an affordable housing concept. There's another bill that's been sent to the governor to sign, and it's his bill, so I'm somewhat optimistic that he'll sign it, but it not only creates extremely low income as a RENA category, but adds acutely low income as well, 15% of AMI. So soon, I expect, like for 2025, I expect city will have to track ALI and ELI. And the next RENA cycle, there'll be something that attaches a goal there. So there's some real areas where the commission looks at that could be connected to the process of developing a project by which the developer applicant describe up.
Okay, so for the goal is including reviewing the enabling recommendations with the aim to not only exceed the unit, but to meet the city's RENA. So I guess exceed the unit needs and to meet our RENA, that's what you want us to, or reflects our RENA.
Yeah, I don't want to be too prescriptive here, but we
Understood.
should understand what we should look at the data that we have and use that to craft the criteria for selecting a partner.
I think you're okay with exceed the unit needs, unit yields, because just a background, as part of the housing element, the city said, we will build X amount of units on these sites, these parks. And we told, the city told the state, we will build 345, not build, but we will plan for 345 units on these parking lots. But as part of the NOFA, they said potentially with the increased density, I think it was like 480 units could potentially be built on those recommended lots. So it has always been a goal of the Housing Commission to exceed that 345 unit count. But based on what Chair Merriman said. So it's not like 345 moderate income units, it's that kind of mirrors or helps meet the city's
Yeah.
requirements.
I don't recommend that we suggest that we have any input on unit count here. That's a whole community process, understand that, that's a whole development feasibility analysis to understand what could be built. And there's going to be some constraints. I don't think you can put 300 extremely low income homes there and have a financing source for that. You're going to need to.
But you can exceed, it can be a commission goal to exceed the unit.
And that's not my recommendation, and so that's gonna be something that happens
That's what
later.
the Housing Commission has.
I hope that we get as close to that as possible or can exceed it, and yet I think based on just reviewing again what we see across our desk here to align with, it'd be great. And then to the extent that the commission can be invited into the community outreach that I suspect will have to happen. Any applicant will need to do some version of outreach, project where it's all over here and you can walk around and open house, kind of that fashion style outreach, I think it'd be great to connect the commission to that.
But again, okay, with the aim to exceed the unit yields.
Sure.
And meet state requirements. I don't even want to say meet, but understand.
I think the word targeting would be good.
Okay.
It's the number of units, but it's where they're targeted at. Sometimes the disconnect.
Hmm,
They look at the last housing element and Menlo Park exceeded what it needed to build by 700%. You look,
moderate income.
you look above moderate, that's all above moderate, so that's been a trend. It's actually a trend on the whole peninsula. It's just the 700% is a especially high number here, but everywhere.
And just, sorry, for the new commissioner, for our next eight, the housing element is for 8 years. And so the state assigned the city, here's your fair share for the Bay Area. And the city's fair share is approximately 3,600 units. But that's also broken down into very low, low, moderate, 4 categories, very low, low, moderate, and above moderate. And then there's numbers for each one. In every jurisdiction, about half of their number is for very low, low, and moderate. But what Chair Merriman is referring to is everyone is exceeding their above moderate. Homes are above moderate. Everyone up and down the peninsula in the Bay Area is exceeding their above moderate percentages. Like 2-3 times.
Looks like the average is about 200%.
Yeah,
But
Wow.
we're,
Wow, it's like-
700, we're a high water mark.
very low and low is in maybe the 20%. 50% if you're lucky, approximately. So,
And moderate is nothing, usually.
yeah, there's no funding. to review. And so just matching the RFP to those numbers, those support. What the church.
Yeah, it's also kind of understanding like what that means, so those categories, they're not, it's a barbell. So moderate, there's not much, but it's 16% of the units, right? And then it's more like 40% on the above moderate, and on the units that are funded usually through public subsidy is more like almost 40%. So these two big groups here and a small group here. So our policies are the way that the city goes out to partners, you know, should kind of reflect a deep understanding of what our real situation is right here. And I think asking that of our partners is appropriate to really look at the market. Will be important as well, that I can wrap on this, because the rents we're allowed to charge for moderate homes in many cases look a lot like market rent. So applicants need to go in eyes wide open about how to target the need and what's appropriate really, with the correct assumptions.
Just, we're looking at BMR. Make our rents lower. A study about that, just to make sure, so.
So this number 4, I love it, but the suggestion, does it need to be in our work plan, or is that just we have a charter as well. It's nothing to prevent us from advocating to our fellow commissions or going to the council and highlighting things that we're proud of our work, or that we want to try to connect the dots for commissions about how our work can be enhanced by collaboration.
Yeah, I'm not wed to it. It was brought up at the last meeting or something, and it sounds like we're gonna have our hands full with the other 3. So,
And to keep it as goal for ourselves. Maybe we can, it's possible to have the work plan goals are, it's what we want to do, it's also how we want to do it, right? And under 4 feels a lot like how we want to do our work. The staff have a recommendation, is there a line in the sand for number of workplace plan goals or?
No, there are other commissions that have a number of tasks. And, so there's no, right. It is really, since it is the housing commission. Whatever you put, you'll have to be reporting back to the council. So it's more of a commitment of the housing commission to achieve these goals. If the commission says yes, collectively agrees to reach out to the EQC, how can we, last meeting, electrify or affordable housing? If that's something that the housing commission is interested in partnering with, or the youth advisory commission or some rec, that's up to the commission.
I like the idea of having this as a, like you're saying, as a kind of a goal for how we do some of this. And with the idea that we're working less in silos, but maybe this could be kind of a quietly underneath, look behind the efforts and not specifically spelled out.
That seems fair to me as well.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that seems fair to me as well.
So I'm okay with that. I like what's written in on the right, the left-hand side so far.
This is our second time looking at it, so I appreciated having a little bit of time to give some spaciousness to thinking it through. I'm pretty comfortable where it's landed. I also know there are commissioners among us who are coming late and may have opinions. So to the extent you have any questions, I want to make space for that. So we can really feel like you're stepping into this as our partner.
So we're waiting for a motion.
Yeah, if,
We feel like we're at a comfortable place to wrap this. Well, looking for a motion to send these work plan goals forth to the city council.
Motion to send work plan both.
Seconded.
So we have a motion, by Commissioner Beale, seconded by Commissioner Leach, to review and recommend to the city council approval of the 2024-2025 Housing Commission draft work plan. Roll call vote. Commissioner Beale.
Aye.
Commissioner, Vice Chair Carlos absent. Commissioner Leach. Chair Merriman.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Neill.
thumbs up will do.
Yeah, okay. Commissioner Portillo, absent. Commissioner Tremont. Motion passes.
Thank you, and thank you. I know that there's a lot of areas where we foreshadowed that we'll need your help, staff, to refine this intent. This is, in my opinion, really intent language to and needs additional specificity to take it to the next steps. I appreciate your partnership in that. I'd like to move us to reports and announcements. If there are commissioner updates, and of course I would invite our new commissioner also to introduce himself if that's appropriate here, or staff, I don't know if you're planning to do that later, but it's certainly an announcement and exciting for us to have all these new folks in Menlo Park excited to volunteer their time.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Hadrian Trumpont, born and raised in Menlo Park. Fortunate enough to move back home. And, yeah, just, I've kind of seen the inequalities firsthand going, growing up, going to public school here, of housing. So I'm glad to be able to get involved and, appreciate being here with all of you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Any other Commissioner update?
You might as well talk about next meeting.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, next meeting, sorry, I know it's, I'm gonna be out of the country, so I won't be able to be here. I'm committed to this position, I just won't be here.
You can phone in from the middle of the night.
Any other, Commissioner updates? Okay,
Well, should announce that Vice Chair Campos has actually resigned as of today. So maybe that's a stat. Also, so the city will be having another recruitment for additional commissioners. We receive that, staff receive that.
so we hope that we can do some recruitment. That would be great. And it's always a goal to have commissioners that represent the district citywide. So
Yeah.
I think if our two representatives from Bellhaven stepped off, that some additional outreach. I know that there's a Bellhaven, get emails from a Bellhaven email list that goes out. I'm not sure, but it's available or appropriate there, but it would be wonderful if that could be considered.
I will ask the clerk. The city clerk does recruitment, so I'm not sure.
Mhm. Okay, can we, should we move to future agenda items?
So, as mentioned, yes, for October, there will be looking at two BMR for commissions review. And so if it's ready, yeah, one is actually. So if you can make that, this is
They're able to share which ones they are.
our plan.
Okay.
Oh, no. No. My apologies. It's not part. That I know. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but anyways, but Parkline will be to Housing Commission for their, so.
And then there's one, I forget the name, on El Camino near the McDonald's. The old, was it Feldman's Books?
Oh,
Yeah.
no, that's 62 El Camino Real.
Yeah,
And so that's still being discussed. Yes, last meeting, Eden had a presentation about a potential development on 1162, but there are some other moving parts in getting the property, whether the city wants, because the developer is responsible in a BMR fee for providing units. But what they also proposed was how about we just give the property in lieu, but or we're going through the process to see how much the developer owes in fees, how much the property is worth, just to make sure the city is getting full value if you through this process. So we're yes, there is an application, but there are still some other things that need to be considered prior to. But that's 1162, yeah.
It seems like we'll also at the next meeting, be opening it up a discussion to select a new vice chair.
Yes, I'll talk to the city clerk depending on how oh, I guess we should. I was just wondering if it should coincide with recruitment, appointment of a new member. Yes. Selection of a vice chair should be done.
Okay. Yes, in particular, because if our time does come, I will again be using myself.
Oh, okay. Very good, understood, okay. And then lastly, staff updates about the VHCC opening table. If that's October 10th, we have an October 3rd meeting. And so thinking that the commission can choose, or the commissioners can volunteer. I think it's from 6 to 8. I will get additional specifics and then can coordinate with those who want to volunteer, or those who have been assigned to tabling. Just provide some resources for especially more information about the city's anti-displacement. We should have dates fixed for community meetings, so can announce those. Spread regards to that. So those are the staff updates.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it looks like we are ready to adjourn meeting. Thank you very much. It is 7:42 p.m. And I appreciate your time and effort and look forward to moving this forward to city council, our work plan and discussion later this month.
Okay. Oh, yeah, September 10th it's the report. Report. So
The September 10th or the 24th?
this,
Or is it
no, the 10th,
the 10th?
the 10th. And it'll just be you.
I can be there.
Be great to have
Oh,
as many commissioners as want, but
I know, I'm just, but
the reason to do it, my philosophy is chair and vice chair should be